What happens when a man leaves the world, but his influence refuses to fade? What happens when a fighter becomes more than a champion? When an actor becomes more than a star? And when a human being becomes an idea that continues inspiring generations long after his time has passed? Bruce Lee was never just a martial artist. He was a revolutionary thinker who challenged traditions, broke cultural barriers, and reshaped the way people understood martial arts, cinema, and personal potential. During his lifetime, he stunned the world with incredible speed, unmatched discipline, and a magnetic screen presence that made him unforgettable. Yet what many people did not fully realize at the time was that Bruce Lee's greatest impact would begin after his life ended. When Bruce Lee passed away in 1973 at only 32 years old, millions believed the world had lost one of the greatest fighters in history. Fans mourned the loss of a hero whose journey had seemed unstoppable. But in the years that followed, something remarkable began to happen. Bruce Lee's philosophy started spreading across continents. His words, ideas, and teachings began influencing not just martial artists, but athletes, filmmakers, philosophers, and dreamers everywhere. Bruce Lee had planted a seed that would grow into a global legacy. His story was no longer just about martial arts or cinema. It had become a story about human potential, individuality, and the courage to challenge limits. The world stands still. The summer of 1973 was a moment that shocked the entire world of martial arts and cinema. News of Bruce Lee's sudden death spread quickly across Asia, Europe, and the United States. Newspapers printed headlines describing the tragic loss of the legendary martial artist. Fans gathered outside his home, movie theaters, and martial arts schools, trying to process the reality that the man they admired so deeply was gone. For millions of people, Bruce Lee represented more than entertainment. He represented determination, discipline, and the idea that one person could break through barriers that once seemed impossible. Dedication and belief in oneself could change their future. The silence that followed his death felt almost unreal. Bruce Lee had been a symbol of energy and motion. A man whose movements were faster than the eye could follow, could disappear so suddenly left fans around the world. Yet while the world mourned, Bruce Lee's influence had already begun expanding in ways no one had anticipated. Enter the Dragon and the global explosion. Shortly after Bruce Lee's passing, his final major film, Enter the Dragon, was released worldwide. What followed was nothing short of extraordinary. The film became an international success and introduced a Tao martial arts cinema to millions of viewers who had never experienced it before. Audiences were captivated by Bruce Lee's intense screen presence. His movements were incredibly fast, precise, and powerful. But it was not only his fighting ability that amazed people. There was a calm confidence in the way he carried himself, a sense that every action he performed had purpose and meaning. In many action movies before Bruce Lee, fight scenes were exaggerated and unrealistic. Bruce Lee changed that completely. His fights looked real, controlled, and strategic. Each movement was efficient, each reaction perfectly timed. He treated martial arts like a science where timing, distance, and precision determined the outcome of a fight. As Enter the Dragon spread across theaters around the world, audiences realized they were witnessing something revolutionary. Bruce Lee had created a new standard for action cinema. The philosophy behind the fighter, behind Bruce Lee's incredible fighting ability, was a mind that constantly searched for deeper understanding. He was not satisfied with simply mastering physical technique. He wanted to understand why certain movements worked, and how the human body and mind could reach their highest potential. Bruce Lee studied philosophy extensively. He read books on Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy, psychology, and personal development. These studies shaped the way he approached martial arts and life itself. His philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, reflected his belief that martial arts should not be restricted by rigid systems. Traditional martial arts styles often required students to follow strict patterns and forms. Bruce Lee believed this approach limited creativity and adaptability. Instead, he encouraged martial artists to learn from different styles and combine techniques in ways that suited their own abilities. For Bruce Lee, martial arts were a living, evolving expression of the individual, the meaning of be like water. One of Bruce Lee's most famous ideas was the concept of becoming like water. He often explained that water could adapt to any shape or situation. It could flow gently or strike with immense power. Water had no fixed form, yet it was capable of overcoming obstacles through persistence and adaptability. Bruce Lee believed that human beings should develop the same ability. Life constantly presents new challenges, and those who remain flexible and open to change are the ones who grow the strongest. This philosophy extended beyond martial arts. Bruce Lee believed that every person should seek their own path rather than blindly following traditions. He encouraged people to think independently, question limitations, and develop their own identity. These ideas resonated deeply with audiences around the world. Bruce Lee's message was not just about fighting. It was about understanding oneself. Martial arts crossed the borders. Before Bruce Lee rose to global fame, martial arts were often misunderstood outside Asia. Many people viewed them as mysterious or exotic traditions rather than practical systems of self-discipline and physical training. Bruce Lee changed that perception forever. Through his films, interviews, and demonstrations, he showed the world that martial arts were about far more than combat. They were about discipline, focus, and personal growth. After his death, martial arts schools across the world began reporting a dramatic increase in students. Young people wanted to learn kung fu, karate, and other martial arts inspired by Bruce Lee's example. But more importantly, they wanted to understand the mindset behind his training. Bruce Lee had shown them that martial arts could transform both the body and the mind. The discovery of his writings. In the years following Bruce Lee's death, his personal notebooks and writings began reaching a wider audience. These writings revealed a thoughtful and deeply reflective individual who constantly explored ideas about growth, discipline, and self-knowledge. Bruce Lee wrote extensively about human potential. He believed that many people limited themselves because they were afraid to challenge their own boundaries. His writings encouraged readers to break through these limitations and discover their true capabilities. As these ideas spread, Bruce Lee's influence began expanding far beyond martial arts schools. Jeet Kune Do spreads across the world. Bruce Lee's students and followers continued teaching the principles of Jeet Kune Do after his death. Unlike traditional martial arts systems that relied on rigid structures, Jeet Kune Do encouraged adaptability and creativity. Fighters who studied Bruce Lee's philosophy learned to combine techniques from boxing, kung fu, fencing, and other combat systems. This approach allowed them to develop flexible fighting styles suited to real situations. Decades later, this philosophy would influence modern mixed martial arts, where fighters train in multiple disciplines rather than relying on a single style. A new era of action cinema. Bruce Lee's impact on cinema continued, growing throughout the 1970s and beyond. Directors and stunt coordinators studied his films carefully to understand how he created such intense fight scenes. They noticed that Bruce Lee's choreography focused on speed, realism, and precision. Instead of slow, exaggerated movements, his fights felt dynamic and believable. As a result, action movies began evolving. Actors started training in martial arts to perform their own stunts, and fight scenes became more technical and realistic. Bruce Lee had permanently changed the language of action filmmaking. The fighters he inspired. Many martial arts legends who rose to fame in later decades often credited Bruce Lee as their inspiration. Actors like Jackie Chan and Jet Li grew up watching his films and studying his movements. They admired not only his physical skill, but also the philosophy he represented. Bruce Lee had shown them that martial arts could be a form of art, storytelling, and personal expression. His influence shaped the next generation of martial arts cinema and ensured that his legacy would continue for decades. The legacy that never ends. Although Bruce Lee lived only 32 years, his impact on the world continues even today. His films remain popular across generations, and his philosophy continues inspiring people from many different fields. Bruce Lee transformed martial arts into a global phenomenon. He challenged cultural stereotypes and opened doors for Asian actors in international cinema. Most importantly, he inspired millions of people to believe in their own potential. Bruce Lee once said that the purpose of martial arts was not simply to defeat an opponent, but to understand oneself. That message continues guiding people even decades after his passing. Bruce Lee was not just a fighter. He was a philosopher, a pioneer, and a legend whose influence will never fade.